Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Miriam. As you can tell by the title of this video, I am going to be reading 3 of my most anticipated books of the year. I do this pretty much every year, at least once, maybe twice a year. It's always a journey. It's always a time. I don't think I've had any misses so far. I think every book that I have anticipated previously has always been good. But is that going to be the case in this video? Let's find out. I already know because the video is filmed. This video was very interesting to film. Took me a while, as you will see, but we got there in the end. I really hope I started this vlog looking presentable because I definitely don't right now. I started Foul Lady Fortune a couple of days ago, immediately when I got accepted on NetGalley for it. But it's been a bit difficult because I'm really picky about the formats that I read my books in. Foul Lady Fortune, the NetGalley arc, it's only available on the NetGalley Shelf app. And so they didn't have an option to send it to Kindle at all, which I'm guessing is for like security reasons and stuff like that. I am having to read it on my big ass iPad, and it's just like so uncomfortable to read on, and there's so many words on the screen at the same time. It's just a lot. Anyways, I'm currently on chapter 6 of this book, and it's definitely a slow start. I don't know how much I said in the intro because I haven't filmed it yet, but I was really anticipating the story for a lot of reasons. I fucking loved the These Violent Delights duology so much. I loved Our Violent Ends so much. It's one of the best sequels I've ever read in my life. I ate that book up, and I also read that book on the NetGalley Shelf app. I think that Chloe Gong is like so fucking talented, and I would read anything that she writes, legitimately anything. But I was just very interested in the premise of the story. I know it's gonna have like a fake arranged marriage type deal, or just like a fake marriage in general between like 2 spies. I wasn't expecting this level of political intrigue and political happenings and goings on in this book, which I definitely should have been, because These Violent Delights, it was very political and very plot driven. I'm not like super surprised by it, but like it's definitely a lot of the book so far. I think I'm like 13% in at this point, and yeah, I'm hoping to get like maybe like 1/3 of the book read today. Yeah, I'm having a pretty good time so far. I'm not completely sold on Rosalind as a main character, I have to be honest about that. I'm kind of waiting for some other characters from the previous duology to show up because I know they're gonna be in this. I just don't know like what role they're going to play. Something that is worrying me though is that one of my best friends, Azanta, just finished this arc like I think 2 days ago, and she felt pretty mediocre about it. I think she gave it like a 3 or 3.5 stars, and that definitely worried me a little bit. But I do think that our tastes are not like 100% aligned, so there's still a pretty good chance that this could be like a 5 stars, but I guess we'll find out. I look so bad. Wow. Anyway, y'all have seen me in worse conditions. Okay, hello. You're gonna see this exact same angle a little bit later on in the video, but it's been weeks. It's really been maybe a little bit more than a month since I last updated you for Foul Lady Fortune. So when I last updated you, I'm really not sure what chapter I was on, but if you recall, or if I even said something about it, I was actually reading Foul Lady Fortune on my iPad. It's overall just like a really inaccessible way to read the book, and it's like not a good reading experience, honestly. For Foul Lady Fortune, I was finding that I could not for the life of me get through that book on my iPad. It was not working for some reason. So thank the gods I was able to snag a Foul Lady Fortune physical arc. So I actually had a friend that was able to send me this. I have not read this book since about a month ago. I marked the chapter that I was at on my iPad, and This book is huge, y'all. This is 80 pages into the book. This right here is 80 pages of this book, and I have this much left. Yeah, I ended up getting to chapter 8 on my iPad, and to be honest with you, I feel pretty confident in that I'm able to pick it up from here. There really wasn't much that had happened in those 8 chapters. Thoughts on what I had read previously? I don't really remember what I said last time, but it was probably that Rosalind, up to this point, I am really unsure of her as a main character. When I heard about the book, when I was reading Our Violent Ends, I was actually really convinced that it was either going to be Celia or Alyssa Montagova that was going to be the main character of this book. But then a little bit before the news was actually released, I did figure out from like people's theories on TikTok that it was going to be Rosalind, and I was like genuinely really excited because I had never even entertained the idea that it was going to be her, but it made sense, and I was just really interested in like this almost Captain America Winter Soldier type like plot line that she was going to be given. And I find the concept really interesting, but like her as a main character, and then also all of the political maneuverings that are happening in this book up to this point, I'm just not convinced. I'm really not convinced. I feel like in these 80 pages, the only thing that has been exciting me is Orion, and even him, I don't feel like he's really living up to the potential of his character just yet, but he has the potential. And I think that if anything, I'm going to grow a really strong attachment to him in this book. But everyone else, I don't know. I have been kind of scared to pick this back up, not gonna lie to you, but it's happening. I am picking it back up today, right now. And my friend Ramila just finished it and she loved it. So that has given me a lot of motivation, and I'm really excited. So I will get some more into this and let you know when I have an update on it and what I'm thinking about it. So it's currently pretty late at night, and I'm actually using my computer as light right now, so that's why my skin has this bluish tint, if you were wondering. But it has once again been many weeks since I have updated you on Foul Lady Fortune, because quite frankly, it's taken me this long to pick the book back up, and I finally have a worthwhile update for you. I don't remember where I was the last time I updated you. I think I was still on like page 80 or whatever, like about 80 pages into the book, and I really didn't have much to say about it, but I am now 209 pages in, and that still barely looks like I've made a dent in this book. That's how humongous it is. But I can finally say that I have found my groove with Foul Lady Fortune. I'm pretty sure I said something along the lines of I was unsure about Rosalind as the main character of the story, even though technically it's just like a full ensemble cast and like everyone has POVs here and there. Rosalind is pretty much the main character of the story nonetheless, and I've gotta say, I don't think she's grown on me anymore since the last time we spoke. Like, I genuinely, she's the main character and I accept that and I'm fine with that. I don't hate her. I don't hate reading from her point of view or anything like that, but she is just not doing it for me. And I really think that this may have something to do with just like, I think that this is purposeful. I think this is purposeful because her character is just so shut off and like, you know, blocked off from the rest of the world. She has buried her emotions and her feelings, and she doesn't allow herself to feel anything. She has taken on this job as an unfeeling immortal assassin. She has just like buried away herself, and she just kind of become a different person, and this is very much within the story. It's definitely coming across that way, but that just makes me like not really, I can't figure her out. I can't really empathize or sympathize or whatever with her. I'm just really like, like she's unfeeling and I'm unfeeling towards her because of that. Like I just don't know what to make of her. It's making for an interesting reading experience because I don't know where we stand. Other characters, we have Orion, who I love, and I'm really wanting to see more of like what's going to become of their romance, because I know that Rosalind and Orion are, you know, eventually, in this part of the book, they're eventually going to form some kind of connection to each other. Where I'm at right now, they have been fake married for like a week or so, and they've been working together and stuff like that. But, you know, Rosalind is still very closed off. I think she's like inching towards maybe being able to trust Orion, but it's very slow moving. But Orion on his own, just like my dream man, and also just like my favorite character archetype. Like he's just like the funny, sarcastic bisexual, and like I'm here. There was no doubt in my mind, even just going into this book, like from the very beginning, that he was going to be my favorite character coming out of it. Yeah, it's confirmed, like he definitely is. I also have some other side characters. We have like Celia. She has something going on with Orion's brother that is also, you know, a very slow moving romance type situation. We have some other characters who are new, and some other characters who we have seen before, which I will not speak on those because I'm pretty sure this video is still coming out before the book comes out. I hope. I just have like some shenanigans going on. The real reason why it has taken me so long to kind of trudge through this book is because this book is very similarly set up to These Violent Delights, in that it starts with literally, I would say, 100 to 150 pages that you kind of just have to stick with, of a lot of political jargon, political maneuverings, and political machinations that you really, it's hard to understand, and you really just have to stick with it whether you understand what's going on or not. I'm noticing that this is just a trend with Chloe Gong in the first books in her series, that you just have to stick with her and you kind of just have to walk with her on explaining to you all of the very complex political things that are happening in this very complex society that she has based her books within, because all of this like is based on real historical events in China, Japanese imperialism, European colonialism, etc. All of that is taking place in this book, and we just have so many different political sects, and there's just a lot going on, and half of it, if not more, is completely flying over my head. But because it's Chloe Gong, I have no doubt that by the end of the story I will at least somewhat understand what is going on, enough to kind of create a full picture of the story and assess the story based on that. I don't know if that just made sense. I hope it did, but I am enjoying the story a lot more now that I have passed that benchmark of 100 and 150 pages. I feel like I'm finally getting my groove with it, 200 pages in, and I feel like after this I will really be able to tell you whether I am liking the story or not, because I just honestly can't even tell you at this point. So I'm gonna read some more and I will update you when I feel like I have an update. I'm on page 287. It's kind of slaying. It only took 287 pages. Only. I pretty drastically changed my hairstyle and I'm pretty obsessed with it, if we're honest. Anyways, my hair is not what we're here to talk about. We are here to talk about Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. I did end up finishing this after, I don't know how many months have we been filming. I think it's been about 3 months. We did start it in June, but I only really picked it back up like about a week ago. So here are my tabs. I let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. I don't really think I went into detail about what this book is about because it is the first book in the sequel series to These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends, that whole duology. It is a spin-off, and I do believe, I'm already getting this question on Instagram when I started posting about that I was reading this book, but I'm just gonna go ahead and answer the question that's on everyone's mind. Do you need to read These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends to understand what is going on in Foul Lady Fortune? Unfortunately, absolutely yes. I cannot imagine what going into this book would be like if you did not read and enjoy These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends. I don't think that anyone who has not read those books will have any chance of going into this book and enjoying anything that happens in it. I don't think that this book is something completely different from those books, so if you didn't like those, you have a chance of liking this. I don't think that is the case, honestly and unfortunately. If you did enjoy any part of that duology, especially I would say the political machinations, the political intrigue, seeing those characters sleuth around, the mystery of the story, if you enjoy like that strong mystery element or kind of trying to get to the bottom of the case of the book, I think that you will enjoy this book and this duology and what it's having to offer. I will say, if you're going into this book specifically for the arranged marriage or like fake marriage between spies trope, I would say maybe tamper that down in your mind before going into it, because similarly to people who went into These Violent Delights for some kind of Romeo and Juliet romance element, similarly to how they were disappointed with how the book just did not surround that specific instance and it had a lot more going on within it, I think that you will be heavily disappointed by the way that the fake marriage between spies assignment thing is executed in this story, because it's a very much a slow burn, and at the end of the day we don't really get much like of the cliched moments that you would think of when you hear like fake marriage. You really don't get too much of those cliche moments until like later on within the marriage. They are really on the job, you know what I'm saying? Like it's really at the end of the day about their assignment. That takes up more than half of the book, I would say. It's really just the assignment and they're focusing on the case, and Orion is very enjoyable and snarky, sarcastic, bisexual the entirety of the book. Not really until like the last third of the book that I would say that Rosalind kind of lets down her shields and starts to play more into it. The last third of the book really saved the book for me, I will say that, but I don't know if it's like the last third of the book landed so well because of all the setup that we got in the first 2/3 of the book. I don't really know if that's the case, or if the first 2/3 of the book really could have just been condensed greatly in order to get to all of the goodness of the third act. I don't know which one of those is the case, but I will just tell you that my experience with this book, the first 2/3 of it, was extremely rough waters. That's really the only way that I can describe it. It was choppy waters, it was rough. I was wading against very rough currents, and it was really hard to trudge through the mud of the first 2/3 of this book and to try to understand or even just get an inkling of understanding of what was going on with all of these spies and all of these political sects and all of these assignments, and everything was just kind of swirling together, and I was just, my eyes were glazing over at times. I knew that she would pull it together in the last third of this book, and that's exactly what happened. The last, I would say, like 150 pages of this book are by far my favorite, and would I say that they are worth sticking around for? Absolutely. I understand her writing, and I'm willing to stick around for, you know, the final landing of all of her books, because I know that it's coming and I always really deeply enjoy it. But I can't say that this is really going to be for everybody, just the same way that I can't say that These Violent Delights is going to be for everybody. But I think it's for me. I think it is for me. I have to say that even having colorfully said that I didn't particularly enjoy the first 2/3 of this book, I have a feeling that upon reread, with everything that you know from the end, the entire book would be so much more enjoyable with all of the details and all of the knowledge that you know from the ending. Chloe Gong puts endless detail into every single encounter that these characters have, and I really think that it's quite genius. And I do believe that every reread of her books bring more and more enjoyment because of you discovering things that you didn't realize before. I was texting my friend Ramila throughout this entire experience, and I was like, oh my god, and I was like connecting dots, and she was like, oh my god, I didn't even realize that when I was reading it. So I really think that even though I don't think that I particularly had a great time with some parts of this book, I still think that Chloe Gong is incredibly talented. I think that she just has like the most amazing career ahead of her, and I still would say that I would pick up absolutely anything that she writes. Having said that, I think it's an incredibly smart move that she is actually moving out of YA and going into adult already in her career, because this I would honestly call new adult. I don't think there's a single thing YA about this book. I would say pretty much the exact same thing about These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends, because really, I mean, the youngest people in these books are like 17, and the majority of the characters are 20 plus, especially in this book. And then These Violent Delights, they were all like 18, 19, 20. So yeah, I would say that it's incredibly smart for her to be moving out of YA after this series is done, because next year her adult debut is coming out, which I cannot express my excitement for. I think I'm gonna end up giving Foul Lady Fortune like a 3.5 or a 4, which is, it definitely is lower than I expected it to be, because when I tell you I was like frothing at the mouth to get this book from the day that I heard about it, it's lower than I expected it to be, but I feel like I still got a very much Chloe Gong experience out of it. And I honestly, I don't think that, you know, it needs to be altered in any way for that. I'm just popping in here real quick because I completely forgot to make the point, the most important point that I wanted to make about this book. This book, Foul Lady Fortune, is literally Captain America the Winter Soldier. However you interpret that is how you interpret it, but just know that y'all will realize, you will realize when you read this book, it's just Captain America the Winter Soldier. And honestly, she is so real for that. So take from that what you will when going into this new book and this new series. I really did enjoy it in the end. I just don't know for sure if some of that beginning portion of the book just really needed to be condensed down. I really can't be sure. And I'm not an editor, so I wouldn't really know at the end of the day. That is what I think about Foul Lady Fortune. 3.5, 4 stars. Let's move on to the next books in this video and hope that they are 5 stars. So this is actually a pretty last minute addition to this video, because I simply did not think that I would be getting an arc of this book anytime soon or at all. I thought I was going to have to wait until November to read this book with everybody else, and I was completely fine with that. But thankfully, thank God, I did end up getting an e-arc of Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn, and we just need to talk about it, because I remember the times where there used to be like a lot of trilogies, and there was this thing called like the second book curse or whatever. I feel like, I don't know if I'm just really selective with the books that I'm reading and the series that I'm reading. I think that's most likely what it is, but I feel like every single sequel that I read, it just really capitalizes on everything that the first book did right and does it like even better, even bigger, even more spectacular than the first book did it. And that's exactly how I feel about Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. If I seem calm right now, if I seem like I'm not as elated as maybe you think I should be or you thought I would be. It's because it's been like over a week since I finished this book, but when I tell you I'm still reeling, like it's taken me this long to be able to sit here and talk about this book to y'all because I was fucking blown away. Like, I cannot even wrap my head around the pure and unadulterated talent that Tracy Deonn has and that she exhibited in the second book, in the way that like she truly did make the story bigger and better in every way possible. Bloodmarked is darker than the first book. It really focuses in on putting the characters, all of the characters, not even just Bree, but all of the characters, but especially Bree, since she is our main character, narrator, only point of view. Tracy Deonn really puts the characters and Bree through the ringer and through many obstacles to which they have to overcome. And I just did not expect, of course I have to be vague about the book, like it's not coming out for some time. I don't know when this video is coming out either, because by this point I have not even finished Foul Lady Fortune, by the way. I did not expect the direction that the book went in, because I think when you read Legendborn and when you get to the end, you kind of have an idea of where the story is headed. They're gonna go kind of on a hunt to look for Nick and everything, and you know the story will go from there with the three main characters, Bree, Nick, and Sel. But this book really took a completely different turn than I thought it was going to take, and Bree has like a very solid group of friends that we already know and love, that is really the focus of this book, and we get really a lot of development and a lot more to do with these characters. And like we just see Bree and her connection to these side characters deepen. I wrote in my review that I already was a fan of these side characters that are given more to do in the second book, but I didn't realize how much more I could come to love them until the events of this book happened. It's darker, it's grittier, it's honestly really hard to read at times with the stuff that Bree especially goes through. I think that she is a fucking phenomenal character. I think she's written beautifully. I've seen online that like a lot of people have been kind of reading Legendborn and focusing more on Sel and Nick than Bree, and I think that that is really fucked up. At the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, it is Bree's story over anybody's, and it's being told so fucking beautifully by Tracy Deonn. I really can't put into words like how this book, like, it really just gripped my heart and twisted, and I just went on such an emotional roller coaster throughout this book. There were times where it was really hard to read, and it was supposed to be hard to read. And I won't speak on this much, but Bree's connection with Sel has so much development in this book. I'm not going to say anything else, but I cried multiple times, and I think that Bree's connection with just all of the characters, some of her mentors like Mariah, are just so amazingly done, but her connection with Sel, it just surpasses. I felt many feelings reading about them, and many feelings reading about just how much Sel cares for her. Nick as well, but that's all I'm gonna say. If you haven't pre-ordered the book already, please pre-order it. I have like at least 2 copies pre-ordered, and I'm hoping that there are some kind of special editions so I can get some more, because I just cannot get enough of this series, and I cannot wait to read more of Bree's story. I will be following it until the very end. I just love her character so much, love the series so much. Tracy Deonn is a wonder, and I can't get enough of this like world where we have like this ancestral magic and also this like European Arthurian magic as well, and like the way that they are combined within Bree is just so fucking fascinating. And I think that the things that Tracy is doing with that it's just completely surpassing what I believe to be the future of the story. Like, it's just gone in a complete, like, this is where I thought the story was gonna go, and it went the complete opposite direction. So I cannot wait to see what Tracy has in store for the story, and I will be there, inshallah. I will be there to read the story until the very end. Like, I need the next book already, but I will be patient for it. I will try my best to be patient for it. Also, I don't think we know how many books this series is going to have just yet, but I personally hope it's like at least 4. I don't think that Tracy has, like, a lot of people think that Legendborn is a trilogy, just because that's kind of what you would assume, but I don't think Tracy has actually said anything about how many books the series is going to be, and I think that's on purpose. Like, she's just kind of waiting it out to see like what feels right. So I'm really hoping that it's like at least 4 books. I think 4 books would be really good, but like, honestly, I feel like it could go on for more. One last thing about this book and like the future of the series, I really mean it when I say that this book was darker, and I feel like the series could get even darker later on, and I feel like honestly it's really going into new adult territory with this 2nd installment, and I feel like it could really continue on with that trend, transition to fully new adults in the future of the series, but I guess we're just gonna have to find out. I don't know. But I would say that Bloodmarked it's pretty new adult, and probably not the way that you are thinking when I say new adult, but it's really, it feels like it sits on the precipice of new adult. But yeah, phenomenal book. It made me feel so much. I read it in 24 hours. Like, y'all know I don't read anything that fast unless I am really excited for it and I am just eating it up and I can't get enough of the story. So I love this so much. Pre-order it, pre-order multiple copies, and moving on to the next book. Hello. This vlog is an absolute mess. It's currently 11 a.m. on August 24th. At this point, I think I might have started this vlog 2 months ago. We have entered rainy season in Texas, so it's not as hot as it was previously because it was really hot this summer. It is in fact dark and cloudy and raining, and it will be for the next week. So that's just lovely. Anyway, I was supposed to film this clip before I actually started the book because I really wanted to kind of sit down and talk about why it has taken me so long to read this book. But I actually started reading As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zulfa Katu last night, and I am already 130 pages in because I cannot stop reading it, and I could not stop reading it once I started it. So a little bit of backstory about me and this book. I heard about As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow on Twitter, I believe last year or maybe sometime in late 2020. I heard about this book when it was first announced that like the book had been acquired, kind of the synopsis of the story was announced. I saw it on Twitter and I saw that it was going to be pretty much the first Arab Muslim contemporary book that was going to be published by one of the big 5. This is published by Hachette Little Brown. It is a YA hard-hitting contemporary book set in Syria, set during the Syrian Revolution in the early 2010s, I believe, and it is by a Syrian author. I actually followed Zulfa on Twitter, and she is a BTS fan. She's an ARMY like I am, and so she actually followed me back, and we just kind of slowly became friends over the course of however long it's been. So we have just grown closer since then, and I have just been so excited but also so terrified to read her book because she has become a very dear friend to me, and this is a very very hard-hitting book. Reading is what I do to escape all the hardships of my own life. So it's really rare that I pick up a hard-hitting book, but every time I do, I gain so much from them. I appreciate them and I'm happy that I pick them up. It just takes so much out of me mentally and emotionally. So while I was so excited to support my friend on her first release, her debut, that I have absolutely no doubt is going to become a huge book, a very, very important book that is going to reach a lot of people. I have absolutely no doubts that this is going to be on the New York Times bestseller list. While I was so excited for that, I was just really scared to actually read the book because of the effect that I know it's going to have on me. This book hits really, really close to home in a lot of different ways, and I have already cried several times. I will cry several more times before I am done with this, and I know for a fact that this book is going to stick with me for a long time. Like, I'm actually really going through it while reading this. Despite how hard it is to read, it's such a readable book, and I find myself really not being able to stop once I start reading because I just have to know what is going to happen with these characters next. It is endlessly intriguing to me, like the circumstance of these characters and how they plan on getting out of this situation, if they plan on getting out of this situation, because they have such a love for their country. But of course, who wouldn't, you know, deep down want to leave? It's really like a dilemma on whether or not they want to stay or if they want to try to go somewhere else. It's heartbreaking. I am going to go and read some more, and I'm not sure if I'm going to have another update for you until I have finished the book, because honestly, I really just want to get through it and see how this ends up. I'm about to cry just thinking about it. So yeah, I'm gonna go finish. Maybe I can give you a better summary once I've finished it and I know what I can and can't share, but it's phenomenal. Hello again. If you can piece together the fucked up timeline of this video and the way that I'm filming it based on what I'm wearing and the angle of the camera, you deserve an award, because you're absolutely correct. The timeline of this video is all over the place. But nonetheless, I'm here to talk to you about As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow, because it's been a couple of days since I finished reading this. I actually finished reading it the day that I last spoke to you, which was the day after I started it, because I was just so encaptured by the story. I was so locked into it that I physically could not get myself to stop reading until I reached the end and until I learned how the story ended. As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zulfa Qatu is a triumph, to say the absolute least. As I told you in the previous clip, I am very, very good friends with Zulfa, but I did promise her that I would give this an honest review. That wasn't even in my mind when I was reading this book, because I was just so overcome by how genuinely excellent and amazingly well done this book was. I think I tried to poorly explain this book to you in the last clip, and I don't think that I really got my point across, or I really said anything about the actual like summary of the book. So I'm gonna go ahead and like give you a rundown of this book right now. In As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow, we are following 18-year-old Salama, and she was at the very start of university to become a pharmacist when the Syrian revolution began, and she could no longer go to school after the first year. A lot of things have been going on in Syria in real life for a long time, and this book is based on all of those true events. But the Syrian revolution began in the early 2010s, which is where this book is taking place. When we meet Salama, she has actually already lost pretty much everyone in her family to the bombings that have happened to to civilians in Syria. The only person that she has left is her sister-in-law, who is actually pregnant with Salama's brother's child, who was taken by the Syrian government for protesting against the government. She is about 7 months pregnant, and when we open the story, we see that Salama is working at the local hospital because she was kind of drafted into the position of doctor and surgeon because she was one of the only people left in the area who had any kind of medical experience at all, even if that was only just 1 year of pharmaceutical school. So Salama has really had to learn hands-on how to treat people who have been greatly and even mortally injured by these bombings and by these incidents done by the Syria government and military. The main plot of the story is Salama struggling with whether or not she wants to go ahead and try to escape Syria with her pregnant sister-in-law, who is definitely about to give birth very soon, who will not be safe. The baby will not be safe. Every day is not promised in the situation that they're in at the start of the story. So Salama is really trying to come to terms that they do need to leave, even though it feels like a betrayal to leave her home country behind and to leave her roots behind and to leave her family who is buried there behind in order to take care of her sister-in-law and her future niece or nephew. And she also meets someone who is a potential romantic love interest in this story, who they may have more history than it seems they do upon meeting each other. That is also a very, very big part of the story because this potential love interest does not want to leave Syria under any circumstances. He feels like it is the ultimate betrayal to his people and his land. That is basically what the story covers, and it is often very, very hard to read. Very horrifying things that are all pulled from real life situations that you can easily, if you search up Syria and everything that's going on in Syria to this day, like right now, you will see the exact same things that are going on in this book going on currently. And it's something that honestly more people really need to learn about. You know, whether or not individual people can make a difference, it's something that everyone needs to know about and needs to know the details of, because it is genuinely something people think of these types of things as happening, you know, way in the past and something that society is past altogether, but these things are still happening on the same earth that we are on at the same time that we're living on it. For that, I fully commend and applaud Zulfa for being able to sit and write the story and make it so cohesive and beautifully written while still telling the horrifying truths of what is going on in Syria to this day and what was going on, you know, since the beginning of the Syrian revolution in the early 2010s. If that didn't tell you that this was 5 out of 5 stars, I would give this book more than 5 stars if I could. It is just one of the best books that I've ever read. And I know that I do not read hard-hitting stories very often, but this was proof to me that even when I do finally pick them up, when I feel ready to pick them up, I gain so much from them and I appreciate them so much. Please consult trigger warnings before picking this one up, but I think it is a pretty necessary read. I truly believe that. So please pre-order this or go pick it up. I don't know when this video is coming out. Go get this book as soon as possible. It is just incredible. So that's that. As long as the lemon trees grow, 5 stars. I'm so happy. Hello again. I forgot to film an outro for this video, so here I am again. But I hope you enjoyed what took pretty much my entire summer to film. It is now a couple of days into September. I started this video in June. Absolutely ridiculous, but hey, we got there in the end. I hope you enjoyed the chaos. Hope you will stick around for more in the future, near future, hopefully. Have a great day. See you in my next video.